On behalf of the National Park Service, welcome to Eleanor Roosevelt National Historic Site. Over the last few months, many of you out there have been working from home. Rooms like your dining rooms and kitchens have transformed into both personal and professional spaces. Eleanor Roosevelt's Valkill Cottage, where I'm standing right now, was also both a personal and professional space. And just like you, Eleanor Roosevelt worked from home. As First Lady, Eleanor would make frequent trips to Valkill, bringing her work with her. Working from Valkill in these days often involved an element of play as well. Eleanor was known to include hiking, canoeing, swimming, and playing tennis in her workday. These were essential parts of this workday, and in fact, Eleanor was known to nag the secretaries working here with her until they got outside and enjoyed some fresh air. And while canoeing may not be part of your day at home, there probably are some similarities between yours and the average workday here at Valkill. For one thing, Eleanor frequently had to contend with small children running through her workspace. These would be the days when her grandkids would come to visit, although Eleanor was able to literally tune them out by turning down her hearing aid. Another possible similarity between your workday and the ones here at Valkill were that every day was the same, in the words of one secretary. And yet another one was that Eleanor and her secretaries wore whatever they wanted. They were free to look as sloppy as they chose. They wore comfy clothes, hair any old way, and definitely no makeup. That might sound familiar, right? Hey, Will, we have a video to make. Come on.
Oh.
Holding picnics was also a common way that Eleanor worked from Valkill. Sometimes these would be for political groups, like ones held for Democratic women's clubs in 1940. Other times, the work Eleanor did through these picnics was more humanitarian in nature. Each year, beginning in 1947, Eleanor hosted a picnic at Valkill for the students of the Wiltwyck School, an educational institution for delinquent boys. For these gatherings, Eleanor would enlist the help of friends and family to serve lunch and organize games for about 150 boys.
At some point in the afternoon, Eleanor would gather the Wiltwyck youngsters around her and read them a story, usually from Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book or his Just So stories. And before the boys left, each of them would get candy to take home with them.
On the days when political leaders from around the world paid Eleanor Roosevelt a visit at Valkill, fun and games were set aside so that she could accomplish important diplomatic work. Leaders whom Eleanor Roosevelt hosted at Valkill included Princess Juliana of the Netherlands, Princess Martha of Norway, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth of the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, also of the United Kingdom, Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, and Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev also stopped by Valkill in 1959 as part of his famous whirlwind tour of the United States.
When world leaders like these came to Valkill, Eleanor usually served them a meal, sometimes here in the dining room. Although in Khrushchev's case, he didn't have time for the meal of borscht that Eleanor's staff prepared for him. He was forced to just grab a dinner roll on his way out the door. Valkill was also the site of Eleanor Roosevelt's working for the Democratic Party. On August 16, 1960, Eleanor Roosevelt hosted presidential candidate John F. Kennedy here for lunch at Valkill. Kennedy hadn't been Eleanor Roosevelt's first choice for Democratic nominee that year, and she had frequently been critical of him in her My Day newspaper columns. She disliked that as a senator, Kennedy hadn't taken a strong enough stand against Joseph McCarthy, and she was also critical of JFK's father, Joseph Kennedy, and the influence that he had on his son. Despite these criticisms, JFK realized the value of Eleanor Roosevelt's support, and both JFK and Eleanor knew that if he were to defeat Republican candidate Richard Nixon, that they would need to present a united front. After their meal, Eleanor and JFK met alone here in the alcove of the living room for about an hour. During this time, she shared with him campaign advice and advice on how to win over more supporters in the Democratic Party. She also shared with him her thoughts on civil rights legislation. She thought it was critical that the next president of the United States champion this legislation and really push it through Congress. She only agreed to support him after he agreed to support such legislation. In turn, Eleanor agreed to serve as honorary chairman of the Citizens for Kennedy Committee. JFK came here to Valkill hoping to earn Eleanor's support, and he got it.
After meeting with Eleanor Roosevelt, JFK remarked, "I am smitten by this woman. Absolutely smitten." Eleanor was impressed with JFK too. The following day in her My Day column, she wrote, "I think Senator Kennedy is anxious to learn. I think he is hospitable to new ideas. He is hard-headed. He calculates the political effect of every move. I left my conversation with him with the feeling that here is a man who wants to leave a record of not only having helped his countrymen, but having helped humanity as a whole. I have come to the conclusion that the people will have in John F. Kennedy, if he is elected, a good president." This meeting helped the Democratic Party become more cohesive in advance of the 1960 election, which, as we know, JFK won.
Like many of your homes right now, Eleanor Roosevelt's Valkill cottage was a workspace too. And although you probably aren't hosting world leaders for lunch, the First Lady of the world wasn't so different from you after all.